Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Erica Schmerker Reality Recaps. Today we're going to be talking about 90 Day Fiance Season 6 of Happily Ever After, Episode 2. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and like and subscribe to my new YouTube channel and go ahead and hit that notification button so you get notified when I post all new videos. Let's get started. So this week we had Angela and sort of Michael. Michael was via satellite. She was talking to Michael from her LA hotel room, all excited about being in LA, but kind of nervous about her surgery for weight loss that was coming up the next day. Michael, of course, doesn't want her to lose any of her large attributes, pom-poms, as some may call them. And he's trying to convince her not to go through with it. But the next day, because Angela's an out-of-control teen that I do what I want, she goes to the plastic surgeon's office and she walks in. She's escorted to an examination room. She's all by herself, doesn't think anyone's watching. She starts playing with all the plastic, implants that are on the table. Can't say I probably wouldn't do the same thing. When the doctor walked in and caught her, and the doctor was accompanied by this woman who was the patient coordinator, Natasha, who was wearing nothing but a bra and a blazer. It was like she kind of wanted to be a Kardashian, but didn't quite make the cut. And kind of reminded me of Finkel and Einhorn from Ace Ventura. Einhorn is Finkel. Anyway, so this bizarre woman was supposed to be there as like Angela's handler. She was the one Angela was speaking with about not smoking before the surgery because of all the repercussions that could happen with the surgery, blood clots and whatnot. So she sat down and the doctor was, going over different things about the procedure, and she was the one to kind of catch that there was actually a pack of cigarettes and a lighter that Angela was toting in her bra. So anyway, Angela has to give up her smokes. She said that it's hard for her to give up her smokes and her cokes, and she's got to really watch it for her procedure. She finds out during this exam that she's going to have a lot of loose skin, something she hadn't given much thought to before, and now she's also going to have the second procedure that's to remove the loose skin. So this time she has to meet with this other plastic surgeon who's going to get rid of the loose skin for her, and this guy happens to be Mick Dreamy himself, and from Ghana, right next to Nigeria. So Angela, of course, is like, oh, hello, and kind of hitting on the doctor the entire time. Though I think that most of her comments that she was making were probably due to some anxiety. It seemed like she was super anxious. Also, she had a whole crew of camera people in there as she's exposing her boobs. Though she did claim to be in a lot of wet t-shirt contests throughout her life. Anyway, so she has this exam. She's completely crazy with the doctor, who seemed to be laughing and getting a kick out of it. And if nothing else, he probably had a good story to go home and tell to his friends later that night. And now she knows that she's going to have to breast reduction and also have her boobs kind of lifted, which she thinks Michael may have a problem with. So that remains to be seen for next week. Next up were Tiffany and Ronald. So Tiffany and Ronald were from 90 Day the Other Way, where Tiffany was taking her son, Daniel, to go stay with her husband, Ronald, or her boyfriend at the time, Ronald. And then they were going to get married and live there, but she felt it was unsafe anyway, because there was barbed wire around all of the apartment complexes that they could afford. And Ronald, of course, if everyone remembers, had a big problem with gambling addiction. And the whole thing seemed kind of like a bad idea. The whole long distance relationship, marrying the guy who was freshly out of rehab for the gambling addiction, the whole 9 yards. So nonetheless, Tiffany had gotten pregnant. They had their daughter Carly, but she didn't want to deliver in South Africa. Because the person at the hospital told her she might have to deliver on the floor. So she actually flew home to Maryland and she gave birth to her daughter there. And she was basically a single mom for all this time. So apparently during all of this time in COVID, she hasn't received any financial support from Ronald. And they're working on their spousal visa, but it has yet to be approved. So they kind of just brought us up to speed. I mean, it only took me, 10 seconds to just explain that. We had to watch 20 minutes of that. However, they're going to South Africa. That's the plan. Although Tiffany feels a little nervous because she feels like maybe this whole thing is a stupid idea because Ronald's not very supportive. Last time she was there, he was not very nice. And she's just worried about finances and letting him get involved in their finances because of his past addictions. So she called the divorce attorney, goes in crying, talks to this guy whose mask is just perpetually falling off of his face, um, about, divorcing Ronald, although she does love him and sort of wants to make it work. Then when she video chats with Ronald, she breaks the news that although they had plane tickets for she, Carly, and Daniel to come to South Africa, she decided on a petty note to cancel things because she was mad that he didn't pay for them. I don't know why you would cancel tickets if you already paid for them yourself and managed to go over there. Just let him pay for everything once you're there. However, that's what she chose to do. So the couple got in a fight, and now it looks like she's not sure what to do. And I think they do go to South Africa. So that was all pointless. Thanks for wasting our time. Then we had Brandon and Julia. So Brandon and Julia are still on their fabulous vacation in fabulous Las Vegas, and they're staying at kind of lesser known hotel, not on the strip it looks like. And they're sitting by the pool having a great time. Julia is doing her Instagram modeling shots while Brandon is being the Instagram husband and taking all the pictures for her. When Betty calls on FaceTime and Betty gives them the news that Julia's paperwork had come in the mail for her green card. So now they're all excited and nervous and worried because her interview is coming up. So they tried to put that aside and enjoy their vacation. So they sat down for dinner, and Julia confessed that she still thinks that Vegas is the place they should live. But they settle on Richmond, Virginia, because it's far enough from the farm that they don't have to be a part of that. But it's close enough that they can do hot tub therapy if they feel like it. So Brandon was talking to Julia about their future plans, and Julia was going on and on about how she's so excited to work when she gets her green card, and she is going to either be a wedding planner or maybe an interior decorator. Of course, Brandon just shoots her down because he says her English isn't good enough and she shouldn't ruin people's weddings, and just very negative. So Julia got really mad and said she's going to make a lot of money and buy her own house. So let's see what happens. Will they end up being roommates or not? And better question is, will Brandon end up shaving the 5 hairs of stubble he has on his face or not? Hopefully, maybe Schick or Dollar Shave Club sponsors him. Kalani and Oswelu were back this week looking kind of chipper, and they were going out for lunch together on a romantic lunch date without the Pajama Brothers. And they were discussing, Kalani was dropping the bomb that Kalani, her sister, was coming to visit. So she thought that Oswelu would be really mad, and he was for a minute, why didn't you tell me this before? But then he took a step back, and he seemed to be most angry because he didn't have enough time to prepare. He wanted to put out some fancy guest soaps, a little hand towel, some turn down service with a mint under her pillow. It seemed like he was more mad about not rolling out the red carpet than actually fighting potentially with her sister like they have in every single season that they've been on. So anyway, he seemed to be trying to prove to Kalani that he's making a change for the better, and he hopes that she appreciates all the changes that he's made. And he said that he was making a fresh mint, which sounded like a mint that might go under Kalani's pillow. I don't know. In any case, he didn't dance and he didn't chee-hoo in any of the entire segment. And that was kind of upsetting to me personally. All right, I'm going to be pretty brief about this one because nothing actually happened. And it's the same stuff as always. So Elizabeth and Andre. So Elizabeth goes over to Chuck's house with all of her brothers and sisters there to discuss this whole idea of Chuck loaning Andre $100,000 and teaching him about the family business. So she goes over there. Obviously, we all know that they're not going to want Andre in this business. It looked like her sister, Jen, was abusing this beach waver. She had these crazy wave patterns going on in her hair that was still perfectly straight. And everyone was dressed up like they were going to an 80s party. So they all had this big spread of sushi. They were standing around. Chuck did his little Moldovan and Andre impression, mocking his voice at first. And Elizabeth was very defensive, defending her man. And he explained to the family that he's going to become Andre's sensei. He was going to be Mr. Miyagi of sorts to Andre and teach him the ways of the business. So of course Charlie's like, oh, you can't have him here. I don't like him coming here from Moldova and you come here from. It's like, okay, we get it. You don't like him. You're going to be stubborn alpha male weirdo. Fine. But then of course Libby had to run off crying in the driveway. All the siblings follow her outside. They all hug it out. Not even sure what happened here. And then she goes home and tells Andre that, he has to go get along with her brother. Did we really just sit through that to hear that he's going to make up with Charlie next week? I think so. I think this was like the transitional episode to get to that like Charlie and Andre reunion. And last and certainly not least were Natalie and Big Mike. So Natalie and Big Mike are still in their hotel in Seattle, and it's Big Mike's 36th birthday. She decided to have takeout food for him for his birthday. Thank God she didn't cook. I mean, they had sushi. She could have just made it from her sushi video. That looked delicious. And anyway, so she prepares this beautiful takeout meal for them. Mike comes downstairs to meet her for this big surprise dinner. They're both wearing masks. They put masks on to greet each other. Then they kiss through the mask. Then they removed the mask and sat at like a 3-foot wide table. Very confusing. Then they were eating dinner. They seemed to be getting along. They were discussing the upcoming trip to Big Mike's mother's house, Mrs. Butterworth, for Thanksgiving. And Mike was like the most animated we ever seen him, just describing all the delicious foods he planned to eat for Thanksgiving. About the real whipped cream, It's good, Gotta have the real whipped cream. And Natalie was just like, I do not know how to make this food. I make borscht for this holiday. Yes, will you eat it? And, things seem to be going swimmingly. However, then Natalie has to start in with like, oh, maybe we should travel to other places, Michael. And he says, oh, we can go to Nevada, like that's where like I used to live, like go see Reno and like meet my friends. And she's like, do you think your friends would like me, Michael? I don't know if your friends would like me. And, he brings in the tough news that, like, she's very harsh. She's a lot to take. And, Natalie didn't take that well. She didn't think that she was very harsh. She thought maybe it's the way she talks. Maybe it's her boingy hair. She didn't really see what the problem was. So instead of just, like, reflecting inward or just being annoyed that Mike was being a jerk, she decided to, like, lash back out by saying, is this why your friends sent pictures of boobs? Now, meanwhile, I think she was talking about Angela, because I think maybe Angela sent Mike a wrong text with a picture of her boobs from the doctor's office, thinking it was her husband, Michael. Just a thought. Anyway, so Mike gets pissed off. He's like, thanks for the sushi, gets up, he gets his bags, and he says that he's hightailing out of there to go spend the rest of his birthday home in Squim, maybe with Uncle Bo doing shots. Tune in next week to see them fight and break up and make up and not make up, but kind of make up, and go see his mom and butter and break up and make up. Thanks so much for joining me again for another episode of Erica Schmerica Reality Recap. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to subscribe to my new YouTube channel and hit that notification button so you get notifications about all my new videos. Thanks again. See you next week.